everybody. It's been a while since I put a video up, so wanted to get one up this week. Our weather's changed. It's been nice and it was up in the 70s most of the week. My oats have sprouted, my peas sprouted, and everything's been going real good. Today, I think the high was like 34. A little cold front has moved in. It is cold today. Definitely not used to it. And I was really getting used to springtime. So I'm in the 7,800. We went up and just feeding some bulls, some hay, just kind of feeding them along, keeping their condition good before we start turning them out. Started buying cows this week. Pretty happy with that. I didn't get too many, but started getting some cows back here, and then they've been buying calves. So we'll be bringing some calves in next week and getting them started on for grass this summer. Of course, with the prices here, I may be able to just sell them and make as much money selling them now as I would holding them all summer. So we'll see what they end up costing me by the time they get here, and how they really look. But we're starting to roll back into some cattle, so everything's looking better. Our construction project's going along really well. I didn't get a chance to video much of it, or actually any of it. I haven't videoed any of it because it was pretty nasty. We went in. It was a house that the water heater blew up on and caught fire. The house was probably built in the 50s or the 40s, and it had a layer of cellulose insulation, and then it had a layer of like steel wool insulation. So it had two layers of insulation. We had to strip all the sheetrock off the walls. And what was really bad about it is the people who live there, they're still in town. They're living in another house, but the insurance company came in and paid them for everything. But these people didn't even go in and dig through their own junk and pick out the photo albums. The fire didn't go through the whole house, but we're having to take everything out because of the smoke. And that way we could shellac the walls, that exterior walls, just so there wouldn't be a smoke smell. But there was multiple closets. There's a couple of closets, and they had their family photo albums. And back when people still had photos, printed their photos off. Nobody does anymore. Everyone has it on their computer, and then they lose their computer. They regret it, but they didn't even go in and get them. And we told them about it, but they still wouldn't go do it. And I know they like their kids, but so we threw away all of their quilts that they had made, for their baby quilts, like their photos, everything. We threw away everything. We had those big roll-off dumpsters. We cleaned it out. We cleaned all of their stuff out. We tore the sheetrock off the walls. We tore the insulation out. It was a terribly nasty job. That stuff was itchy. So we had those full Tyvek suits, the white suits most people spray with, full respirators because you couldn't breathe at all. And, just in case there was asbestos in the house somewhere, which it wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, and it was, they like to hunt, so we probably threw, a good 200 arrows away that had the broadheads on them. So, there's all these arrows in the insulation. You had to be really careful not to get stuck with an arrow. It was nuts. It really was. But we got all that stuff torn out. The electricians are there now. We're pretty much done for right now until electricians get all new wire run in the house. And then they're gonna come spray foam it. And then we can start sheetrocking and get back rocking and rolling. But yeah, it kind of really got away with me and everyone else there that these people wouldn't even get their family photo albums. You know, the one things that they could have saved, they didn't. But you know, everyone's got their reasons, I guess. I think I would have picked them up, but you know, maybe, who knows? Maybe they grew apart. I doubt it. But there's my horse, one of my horses. Oh, there's another one. And then there's my wife's little pony. But the two roans are my horses, and my other saddle horses are in the pens. I don't need that big of a feed bill, so I can keep them out in the pasture if I can. But I just wanted to throw a little update up there. I'll get a little shot of my peas and my oats coming up. They look good. You know, spring's here. We can feel it. Doesn't feel like it today, but you know, next week it's supposed to get up to 80. So if I can, I'll get a video of us processing some calves so you got kind of an idea of how that works. You know, I've really kind of, I've struggled with the thought of doing it, and I don't know if I should do it, but you know, we get a lot of southern cattle in, and those guys, they don't really select for non-horn cattle, so when you're looking at feedlot cattle, you have to dehorn. The state, you know, I'm in New Mexico, and I am very thankful for the laws that we have, and our laws are that you have to brand your cattle. If you do not brand your cattle, then they are not your cattle. If you don't brand your cattle and someone takes your cattle, they're not your cattle. You know, you have to brand your cattle within 30 days. You can't put an ear tag in it and say that's identification. You have to have a holder's brand, and we are very thankful our state is that strict. You know, that's a very good thing for us. I think every state should require it. Cut a lot of this cattle theft out. You know, it still happens, but it's damn sure a lot harder in this state. Brand your cattle. That's what you know, there's a lot of people who don't think you need to, who don't think you should, because it's, you know, oh, your poor cows. Well, you know, those cows are here to produce. You need to take care of your cows. I agree with that. You need to do what you can to, because if you don't take care of your cows aren't going to take care of you. But brand your damn cows. It's, you know, we're thankful that it's the law here, because it's too tempting for people. And the more and more people there are, you know, the more tempting it's going to be. They think they're going to make money on them. Well, you know, we actually had an incident. I'm trying to move some hay bales here, so probably going to get the worst camera angles. Where we were shipped all of our cows back from some grass leases we had in East Texas, where we'd sent our cows during the drought here just so we could stay in the business. And our cows were branded, and we actually registered the brands down there. You know, Texas, you don't have to. You don't have to brand your cattle. There's a lot of cattle theft in Texas because of it. But when it was all said and done, we were short about 20 cows and a couple bulls. You know, and 20 cows, you're short 20 cows, short 30 calves. You know, it's kind of hard to say that, you know, they just went into thin air, but, you know, down there it's just too damn easy. So when you don't require people to brand your damn cows, you know, they disappear. You know, it's just, it's the hard reality of it. And we actually had theft insurance on our cattle, and Farm, you know, fuck it, I'm gonna say it, Farm Bureau. I went and got the insurance. We specifically said, hey, we need this insurance for cattle theft. Our bank wants us to have it. And so they came up with a policy that covered cattle theft. We got our cows back, minus the cows that just randomly disappeared. And they pulled this bullshit deal. And this was the shitty deal, is they said, okay, you know, we went through and gave them all the numbers and kind of what happened. And they told me, all right, well, we're gonna get you paid. A couple weeks later, they called me up, and they're like, well, you know, you couldn't have physical proof that the cattle were stolen. Like, okay, the fence was cut right here. Well, you don't have to cut a fence when your pastures are only, you know, 40 damn acres at the most. That's a big pasture there. Every pasture has a set of pins. Why the hell would you cut the fence? Just load them in the damn pins and take them. So, you know, we didn't have physical proof. And the other part was we had somebody as a caretaker who was responsible for these cattle and actually had a written contract with them that he was responsible for the cattle if something were to happen. And, you know, I'm not saying it was him, I'm not saying it wasn't him or some of his employees or ex-employees. You know, I got along with the guy great until my cattle, came up missing. But, so Farm Bureau, and their infinite wisdom, were like, oh, well, you know, you can't, you know, you had somebody else watching them and it wasn't you. I was like, well, you know, so we're not going to pay you. Which, I'm going to get a big old nostril shot. So, I don't know. I'm kind of a little pissed off at Farm Bureau right now. Pay them all this money and then they pull that kind of shit, so. And the guy he told me, he's like, well, you know, you got to read that, you know, you need to read your policy. Well, I've had this same policy that you guys got me for cattle theft, and then we put, you know, ranch insurance and all my hay equipment and everything else on there. But the main policy was for these cows, and then you're going to tell me, oh, you need to read your policy. Well, don't get me a policy for cattle theft, and then tell me, well, it doesn't cover this. I read my policy, but am I supposed to keep my policy in my pickup and read it every damn day over 4 years? So it's a little touchy. It's always something, you know, if they can, but that's the business they're in, you know. They're not going to shell out money unless they get caught. But yeah, I completely went off subject from construction, but that's kind of my little rant. It's been interesting, but yeah, we went from branding cows to cattle theft and insurance companies. But yeah, but the reason, I guess, back to where I started, you know, everyone's, oh, inhumane treatment of animals. Well, we have to brand them, and we have to dehorn them. You have to dehorn them so they don't hurt each other, and bunk space. You know, if you don't dehorn your cattle, when you go to sell them as feeders, feedlots for finishers, they don't want to buy them. They don't want to give you a premium price because they have horns and they take up more bunk space. And what really happens is those horns, cattle play around. You know, we all play around. They're gonna butt other cattle with those horns, and you get bruising. And so when they are in the processing part of it, then those bruises show up, and that meat's no good. You know, it's just bruised for a little bit, but if it happened right before they send them, well, then they can't use that, and so they get docked, and that's just part of it. And everyone's bitching and moaning about us not taking care of our cattle, but you know, that's what you kind of got to do to actually take care of your cattle. And so dehorn them. And you should dehorn them when you're little so it's not so painful. But, you know, everyone's got 5 acres down there, or, you know, in the south, or 30 acres, and they don't dehorn their cattle because they don't know how, and they're still getting the same amount of money down there, but it's us down the line who have to deal with it, and it's a pain in the ass. You need to dehorn them then when they're little, because they've got little nubs, and you can just get it right off, and it's not such a big process. But when we get them, and they're 4 or 5 inches long, and you got to cut the damn things off, then it's stressful on the cattle. And we want to reduce stress as much as we can, but if the people down the line don't do it, you know, someone has to. So, I don't know if I'll ever show that. I might, you know. I think if you show it and you give a good explanation why you're doing it, it might not go over so bad, but then you got people like PETA and everyone else are going to throw a little shit fit, and that's always going to happen. So, I don't know. That's the one big thing, like, I keep covering up my camera. I've always been kind of concerned with about showing cattle work, even though we are a cattle ranch and that's everything we do is cattle work. But, you know, and I don't want to get the industry a bad name, even if you're doing it right, just because there's too many people out there who can take those videos or what and turn it against you and turn it around and saying that, you know, you're just being mean to those cattle, when in the long run you're doing it for the cattle's health and other cattle and the well-being, and you're trying to not, I mean, even you're just not trying to waste meat, because you got bruised meat, they can't package that. So if you don't want to hurt the cattle, but if they're bruising meat, no one wants to eat bruised meat, so then you're wasting meat. Well, you don't want to waste it, and you want to do what's right. So I don't know, if you guys think I should do it, I may do it. My wife doesn't really think I should do it because I'm not very low stress. You know, we do low stress, but I guess we do low stress. We get the job done. You know, I grew up, you got to read the cattle, you get the job done. You better know what you're doing. But I also took a course when I was in college, and they tried to teach me how to do low stress cattle handling, and what it boils down to is, if you grew up around cattle, you know how to watch cattle and you know what they're going to do. Well, it's the same thing, but you know, they're trying to teach you how to work cattle. But if you already know how to do it, well, don't sit there with the hot shot and your finger on the button, and you're doing pretty good. And that's what they're trying to teach people not to do. But if you want to see it, I'll take a video, you know. Might as well get it out there and see if we can explain it, and get some more people in agriculture who are explaining why we do it and why we need to do it. And maybe if we do it in a good manner, then it'll help some. I don't know. Might not. May just turn into another one of those videos that they try to use against us. So, all right. This is a really long video, so thanks for watching. Please comment, like it, subscribe, all that fun stuff, but I'll have more coming. Thanks.